J-Hope's hands reveal that they may well get involved in a polyamorous relationship. J-Hope's ideal partner would absolutely need to be a long palm and short fingers. So if you're looking at your hands and you're wondering what constitutes as a long palm and short fingers, it's pretty easy to tell. All you have to do is measure your longest finger, your middle finger, against the length of your palm. Now, if your middle finger is 7/8 of the palm's length or shorter, then you have short fingers. And this means that you already kind of qualify as so long as you have a long palm. If you have long palm and short fingers, you're a fire hand. J-Hope is an air hand. The hand is square, the fingers are undoubtedly long. J-Hope is all about concepts, debate, ideas, thoughts, thinking new ideas, challenging those ideas, travel, exploration, and exploration, not just in terms of literal, physical kind of travel, but also in terms of exploring the realms of societal norms and breaking those, challenging those. And everything about J Hope's hands provides this sense of mystery, this love of mystery. If you're someone that can revel in this as well, then you're someone that's certainly going to be compatible with J Hope. But also, I feel quite strongly about this. J Hope's hand reveals a very unusual, very unorthodox. Everything about J-Hope's hands reveals unconventional thinking and um, doing things in a very unconventional way and relationships. I believe J-Hope may well become involved in a polyamorous relationship. Now maybe that's one partner who's sexual, one who's romantic. I don't know, but it's going to be a very unusual relationship, and it may well be with more than one person. Now, again, if you're someone who is open to actually being open in relationships, then I believe you're someone who's instantly much more compatible with someone like J-Hope. J-Hope is utterly open to new experiences, exploring the realms of the unknown in actually a lot of in a lot of ways. J-Hope has hands that are entirely mysterious, but and this is the thing, someone mentioned quite recently in one of the comments, um, about this, and it got me thinking. J-Hope has really similar hands to the hand of the British illusionist Darren Brown. Darren Brown has, again, unmistakably air hands, very long fingers. Check out the Mercury fingers. It's unbelievably long. I think Darren Brown probably has a exceptional singing ability as well, in fact. But Darren Brown is a showman. Darren Brown has a tremendous stage presence. He is a performer, and not in that typical kind of, when people think of performer, they think of acting, dancing, or singing. But there's more to it than that. Darren Brown has that ability to engage with an audience, to captivate, to hypnotize. Quite literally, Darren Brown hypnotizes people. And this is something that J-Hope has in his hands as well. J-Hope has exceptional Neptune mount here. This is really well developed. And there are actually hypnotic powers here. J-Hope has these unharnessed abilities here. So if you're someone who's really into those deep and meaningful conversations, can get intellectual, can pull apart the bigger questions to life, and really enjoy discovering and exploring these concepts, watching those um, documentaries about really kind of deep and meaningful, fascinating topics, criminology, psychology, sociology, anthropology. These are certainly topics that I would expect J-Hope to find really interesting. And I think um, because of this real strong and deep understanding of the human condition, actually just really inherently, I think J-Hope has really a powerful understanding of the human condition. This is partly why J-Hope is such a powerful performer, and has that ability to hypnotize and captivate, has that stage presence, is a showman, has that showman ability. And so J-Hope really needs someone in their life who is a performer as well, but in a different way, in a way that can inspire powerfully, a lot like JK from BTS or Jimin. They are both fire hands as well. They're both very active and inspirational. J-Hope would require someone who absolutely needs confidence, a good idea, someone not unlike actually. This is unlike Jimin and JK from BTS. They would actually need to have quite a long Jupiter finger as well. But what they also would require, if you're looking at your hands and you're wondering, this is what you need. You need a heart line that branches out in more than one direction. It needs to be a heart line that branches upwards in between Saturn and Jupiter, as well as onto the Jupiter mount as well. Maybe even a trident. That wouldn't be a bad thing as well. But it needs to be a far-reaching heart line. It needs to be a heart line that not only curves upwards, but it also is very long as well. It needs to be branching. Why? Because J-Hope requires complexity in a person's love language in terms of J-Hope's ideal partner. J-Hope's ideal partner needs to be very varied in terms of their emotional intelligence and their ability to not only understand how love is received, but given as well. J-Hope is so unconventional that it's a really good thing that the lifeline and the headline are tied for quite some time. Otherwise, he'd be quite literally just off the floor, and just not grounded in any way, shape, or form. And again, actually, the shape of the palm really grounds J-Hope, um, and enables this incredible, far-reaching concepts, and levels them out and puts them into practice, and enables that ability to kind of put things into practice. So here's another thing. If you're looking at your hands and you're kind of wondering here, what do I need to see in my own hands to see if I'm compatible with J-Hope? Well, if you have an escape line, so this is what an escape line looks like. It rises from actually the end of the lifeline, and it rises outwards into lunar. It's this kind of far-reaching need, a desire to get away, to break free, to explore, to escape, to travel. This is this need for escapism, to discover and experience other things in life. It's often seen on the hands of people who are just kind of bored, really, stuck in a rut, but it's always seen on the hands of analytical hand types. It's almost always, seen on air hands as well, in particular, analytical air hands. Every single analytical air hand will have an escape line because they love travel. It's this kind of need to explore and experience and challenge themselves in different settings to see what life is like inside the shoes of another. This is something that really um, inspires uh, air hands. And if you have an escape line, then you are instantly much more compatible with J Hope, because J Hope, they will do a lot of traveling. When they have that spare time, when they're in that second phase of their life, which is going to be 35, there's going to be big changes. And after this time, there's probably going to be a lot of travel. And in particular, at the age of 50, there's going to be travel, and it's going to be coinciding with purchasing property abroad. In any case, there's going to be a lot of travel around this time. J-Hope in their later life certainly going to be doing a lot of traveling. Now, the other thing that J-Hope requires, and this actually kind of ties in with this um, being bold and stepping outside of the familiar, and trying out those things that potentially scares them. J-Hope is brave. Really not afraid to just try out things that really scares them, in fact. Notice how J-Hope's lifeline swings outwards very far, almost into the center of the hand itself. It's almost right into Neptune, this place of captivating others and engaging and hypnotizing. And I don't think that's a coincidence. If your lifeline does a similar thing, this instantly makes you much more compatible with J-Hope as well, because there needs to be alignment here. There needs to be alignment in terms of values. If you've got a lifeline that hugs quite closely, that cuts right in like this, that really kind of narrows off the Venus mount and reduces Venus, that's not a compatibility sign. That's not gonna be an attractive quality because it means you're isolating yourself, you're reducing your social network. It means that you're comfortable in your familiar setting and you kind of just want to keep it that way. And you don't really want to step outside of the familiar. That's not a compatibility sign. J Hope is constantly treading new ground, stepping outside, of his comfort zone and really exposing himself to different things to in order to experience and but to grow. And I think J-Ho understands that, there can't be growth unless there's challenge. Now, the other thing, and this is quite key as well. Notice how J-Hope's thumb is very low set. This is seen in Jin's hand as well. Jin has very low set thumb. This is the sign of not only a humanitarian, it's one of the signs anyway. I don't like to conclude from one sign alone in the hands. Some signs are much more powerful, but this is also the sign of a book lover, and this is almost always true. It's a sign of someone who, it's one of the signs in the hands of an old soul. J Hope is an old soul. Most of the members of BTS are. They've been around for many, many lives. There's a lot of, how can I put this? There's a lot of karmic influence because of these many lives they've lived. And there's no coincidence as to how they've achieved as much as they have in such a short space of time in their lives in this life. It's because of the many lives they've lived before. It's because of ancestral kind of wisdom. Um, anyway, I'm getting deep and cosmic here, but basically, if your thumb is low set as well, if it's like this, then you're also likely a book lover. J Hope loves, as I've already mentioned, these deep and far-reaching concepts, constantly in search of knowledge. There's a thirst for knowledge here, and this is also what the fingers show us. These fanned out, far-reaching fingers. We also see this um, in Darren Brown. Darren Brown is constantly reading books, constantly writing books as well, constantly in search of information. If you are also someone who's just as enthralled, just as buried in a book consistently, this is something that's J-Hope's going to find really attractive. Really going to find that attractive. But you also need to be kind of a social butterfly, um, a little bit like V from BTS. There needs to be that bouncing around the room, absorbing conversation, being very adaptive and fluid in conversation, being very witty, being very quick. If the tip of your Mercury finger is pointed like J Hope's, J Hope's going to find that really attractive in you because you are going to be quick, witty, sharp tongue, silver tongue. This is something that J Hope is as well. And this is something that you're going to, again, align with. This kind of the back and forth conversation between you two is going to be like fire. And this is the kind of thing that J Hope needs. J Hope is air. J Hope needs fire because they fuel each other. Obviously, too much and fire becomes too big, too powerful, too dominant, too much of a presence in the room, and J Hope's going to feel a little bit belittled. But too much fire, and or I should think actually on the flip side, too much air could diminish that fire and blow it out. And it goes kind of both ways. Fire absorbs air and can suck the life out of J-Hope. If there's too big a presence here, there needs to be a matching of energies here. But the thing is, because there's so much air in J-Hope's hand, J-Hope actually absolutely, undoubtedly needs to have someone who has a long palm and short fingers. Those fingers can't be too short though. They need to be just about short because J-Hope is just there's so much intrigue, and fascination and soaking up of all this information. There needs to be, it needs to be quite an intellectual fire hand. But you need to have a powerful presence about you, a powerful personality, and really have a good handle and understanding of social surrounding, social awareness, as well as emotional intelligence. J Hope is materially minded. There's a good understanding, a grounded sense of, value. But J-Hope isn't looking for someone who has that same kind of financial material status. They're just not interested in that in terms of finding, a partner. Um, J-Hope isn't looking for someone to match their material status. Just not important. It's just not one of their um, core kind of values in terms of their ideal partner. So that's fine. But you may well need a headline that reaches further than what we see here. The reaches underneath Mercury. And I don't think it matters too. There needs to be a slight curvature. It can't be. It can't be too. It can't be too curved. There's this flexibility, this creativity. J Hope has enough for one relationship. And actually, if it's a straight headline, that's not a bad thing. I don't think that kind of straight talking, straight thinking, that bluntness, J Hope's going to find that really refreshing. And fire hands often have that. But the headline does need to be far reaching. It does need to land underneath the Mercury Mountain. It needs to reach not necessarily the whole length of the hand, but it needs to be quite far reaching. And this is because that sense of planning, thinking ahead, that straight talking, straight thinking, far-reaching thoughts. These are aspects that not only J Hope's going to find attractive and appealing, but actually these are compatibility signs that are fairly essential. Now, here's another thing. Oh, let me just get rid of this green line. Notice how J Hope's headline and Heartline there's a nice big space between the two. This shows generosity. It shows an open mind. Again, everything I've said about J Hope, reveals that openness. Open to new concepts and ideas and just trying out new stuff. This is something that J Hope again finds really appealing in others, but also it's a must. If you've got a headline and a heartline that are like this as well, that have a massive space between the two, this is a really good sign. And I think that's something that J Hope's going to get on with. It's showing if this space is too narrow, it's narrow-mindedness and is a lack of willingness to kind of put yourself out there, figuratively, literally. So it's really important that you have, in order to be compatible with J Hope, and equally, not, I mean, it needs to be a large space like this. Maybe not quite this large because this is quite an exceptionally wide space, but it does need to be, I would say, almost as large or larger. The greater the gap, the better, basically. Do you have long thumbs? This is something else that J-Hope's going to find really attractive in you because it's going to mean that you are a deep thinker. And as I've already mentioned, J-Hope's into people who are, you know, um, keen about intellectual pursuits, concepts, ideas. I'm talking about the meaningful, deep conversations. The not small talk is not that's not going to be appealing for J-Hope. If you're a small talker, forget it. J-Hope requires someone who is a deep thinker. Now, if you've got long fingers, that's going to help. But part of being a fire hand means you kind of need to have short fingers. And this is why I mentioned they can't be too short. But if you've got a long thumb, that makes up for this. Long-thumbed people are not always deep thinkers. They think about their dreams. They think about space, the afterlife, the lives before. They think about all sorts of things. And this is kind of why um, this is going to be another really strong compatibility sign. J-Hope's going to find this really appealing about you. Now, your thumb, in order for your thumb to be long, if you put your hand together and your thumb reaches halfway of the third phalanx of Jupiter, then you have a long thumb. And this makes you a deep thinker. This makes you someone who is, again, another compatibility sign here with J-Hope. And these are all these things combined. I wouldn't say you necessarily need all of them to be compatible with J-Hope, but I do think you need to have most of them. And so I don't know. I'm kind of anticipating J-Hope to become involved in a relationship with more than one person. I think there's J-Hope's that unconventional. At least one of those people are going to be a fire hand. I think probably both of them, if I'm honest. Fire hands don't get on all that well together in relationships. That's going to cause issues. I don't know. I'm getting way too ahead of myself. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you have most of these signs. If you do, then you are certainly compatible with J Hope. Thank you for watching. Please, please do like this video. It helps the algorithm, and I need all the help I can get. Consider becoming a member. Please do subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.